ミレコさ
ん。ようやく白状したな、まったく。
完全な厄介熟女ムーブですね。
Hi there everyone, Lars back with another review and analysis for Mysterious Disappearances, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And in this episode, we wrap up the mystery of the girl in the Scarlet Raincoat, or it goes by actually a whole lot of different names, as we will see in this episode. So what we get is an immediate continuation of the standoff that Oto and Shizuku are having with this weird apparition, this curiosity, which took Shizuku's friend Tomo way back a couple months ago. And ever since then, she's been hunting for Tomo, she's been hunting for what took her, and now it is here for her. Thanks to the revelations of Ren and Sumireko, they know that this is indeed Tomo. This is some sort of creature, some spirit, some curse, some curiosity, which has not just simply taken her, but has basically used Tomo as a kind of baton in this cosmic supernatural relay race as it hunts for other victims, and it has specifically chosen Shizuku as its next victim thanks to the relationship that she had with Tomo. And as we get throughout this episode with the flashbacks and with the explanations, and even with the very beautiful encounter that Shizuku has when she surrenders herself to the curiosity, it is that she and Tomo have a wonderful best friend relationship. And for that reason, that is why Shizuku is targeted by this being. And it is interesting that for such a powerful new curiosity to come onto the scene, even exerting itself almost like an upcoming god, it doesn't reveal itself to be quite as powerful or quite as valuable, one might say, to the Kisaragi station. And that is something that we are going to parse out at the end with the analysis. So the episode opens up with a pretty sad flashback of what happened with Shizuku. Shizuku is a victim of negligence, of really severe negligence, not just from her family, but also from her community. People do not want to take on an extra mouth to feed. People do not want to be a part of the embarrassment of a girl who has been abandoned by her folks and is just given money to live outside. And as such, she's become effectively a hobo. She's a hobo with a home, but she's forced to live outside all the time. As such, even though the kids in her community do actually want to be friends with her and be nice to her, the adults do not. The adults do not want to be a part of this very nasty legal mess, which is rather unfortunate, rather selfish of their part. Who cares what societal norms have to say? I think we can all agree that this is really crude and bad. It's only Tomo, though, who goes behind her mother's back to bring in Shizuku and take care of her. Thus, we see why Shizuku loves ramen, because that's what Tomo gave her, and they've been basically inseparable ever since. And because now Shizuku, in the present, has confirmation that Tomo was gone, Tomo was dead, for her, she's like, well, what's even the point? Like, my best friend, the one who helped me go on ever since I was abandoned by my folks, she's gone. She was the most important thing to me. And as Shizuku believes, I really wasn't all that important to her. I'm just the runt. I'm the forced runaway. I'm the girl that no one else wanted. So why not give myself up? What if I could save Tomo from the clutches of this monstrosity, this curiosity, by taking her spot? I will be the next person in the baton race. And because I am not all that important, it might even end with me. Now that might be a little bit of a stretch of logic considering what we know about this emerging curse, but for Shizuku, this just makes sense. I will save my best friend's soul. I will take the fall because I am a worthless individual, and so she blocks Sumireko and Oto from chasing after her as she goes out onto the rooftop and there confronts the curiosity. And she enters into this beautiful state as she merges with the curiosity and gets to have one last moment with her friend Tomo, as Tomo gives her a slight little trim in the back and vanishes, leaving behind only the scissors that she would use to cut her hair. Well, this does seem like the end for Shizuku. She is completely just torn apart, becomes water, becomes this now wandering spirit, and goes off to run off with the storm and then come back whenever the rain comes again in order to hunt for the next victim. Oto and Sumireko are completely powerless to stop what is happening. However, luckily enough for them, Ren is here. And I like how we get to see Oto just scream out for her older brother telepathically, just needing some sort of savior, and lo and behold, he is there. What a good big brother. And he confronts Shizuku as she tries to run away as the new curiosity and cripples her with the test written in crimson ink to grab her attention, and it is showing both to Shizuku and to Oto, but especially to Shizuku, that no, you are not just a reject, there is someone important to you. You are not friendless, you are not alone. He uses this test as one of the weaknesses to another one of the curiosities and urban legends that has been assimilated into this new curiosity. And basically what is that you've got this girl, not quite Bloody Mary, but you go into a bathroom, you look in the mirror, you shout out her name 3 separate times, she then shows on up, and the only way to banish her is then to show her something important to the person who has activated the curse, or to someone that she knew, thereby banishing her away. Well, for Ren, he has all of these precious tests, these magnificently scored tests from his sister Oto. Oh, he being basically the overbearing father who's preserved all of those happy memories, brings him on out, because this is something important to Oto, but because it's also something important to Oto, who's important now to Shizuku, it resonates with Shizuku. So he is attacking this curiosity from all of its newly acquired amalgamated weaknesses, and stuns her for a moment with the perfectly scored crimson marked test, which allows them for Sumireko and Oto to help Ren drag Shizuku on over to the Kisaragi station, where there he takes the scissors left behind by Tomo and exchanges them for a ticket. And what he's going to do is he is getting a ticket specifically for this new curiosity to rip it away from this plane, away from this dimension, and send it somewhere else. And the plan works. Oto helps Shizuku go down this strangely convoluted, cluttered, rather dangerous hallway towards the train. Towards the train that is filled with lost souls and wandering spirits and ideas to bear away the girl in the Scarlet Raincoat. And ta-da! Shizuku is saved, and the day is saved, but we are left with a bit of a bittersweet ending with this episode, where we learn through the conversation between Sumireko and Ren in the Kisaragi station, that Ren and Oto really are indeed cursed. They do not belong in this plane of existence. They're trying to get home, and the only way to get home is to get to the very end of the line, to get back to where they're supposed to go. And to do that, they have to get a ticket that is worth just an incredible amount of energy and power. This is why Ren, despite actually being a really good hunter of these curiosities, has been unable to get him and his sister back. But as revealed by the Kisaragi station, only Oto can go all the way back, because Ren, despite having the appearance of her brother, is not really her brother. What he is, I'm not going to say. That is something to be discovered later on in the manga. I will say this, knowing what I do know from the manga, this ending is even more bittersweet, because just, wow. Poor Ren, like when the Kisaragi station taunts him, saying, when was the last time you slept? When was the last time you ate? Ren is falling apart. And if you pay attention to some of the clues, some of the visual clues, it seems at times as though Ren isn't actually there. Yes, he stooped over, but you can notice that there's some things missing in some of these shots. That's intentional. And there's a very powerful scene later on. I don't believe we're going to get it in the anime, just because this is a very recent scene within the manga that is just a sucker punch about Ren. And all of the visual cues and clues coming together to tell you, holy crap, what a guy. So coming back to it, though the day is saved, it's a bittersweet ending. In part because we now know that Ren can't go back home. We know what kinds of lengths he and Oto will have to go through just to get Oto back home, and though Shizuku was saved, Shizuku does not leave Kisaragi Station unscathed. And unfortunately, Tomo is dead. And while Tomo has been released from the curse and the curiosity, that's still a massive loss. And Shizuku is going to have to learn to pick up the pieces of her life and move on. Spoiler alert, though, I do love what happens with Shizuku, because she is able to pick up her life and be yet another member of the growing platonic harem that is forming around Sumireko. Now, let me briefly talk about the curse that we have going on here. I love this element of storytelling within Mysterious Disappearances. The fluidity of legends, of myths. And it's not just for urban legends or myths. Almost all myths and legends have a certain amount of fluidity and vagueness to them, in part because as they have been shared from person to person, the story changes, like a game of telephone. And it not only changes from person to person, but it changes over time, and it changes from region to region. You can especially see this when you look back, for instance, at ancient Greek myths. Depending on which city-state you were in, even a massive popular myth like Hercules would have changed from person to person and from city-state to city-state. Within Japan, while it might not be quite as prominent as the gods of Mount Olympus and the various ways in which they were worshipped and revered and honored from city-state to city-state, multiple major cities and regions within Japan have variations of local legends and of broader regional or national legends and myths. When you now combine those superstitions and legends with new urban legends coming to life, rapidly evolving as people are experiencing and sharing all of these weird things together on the internet, not just from person to person, but from nation to nation, allowing these urban legends and curiosities to jump oceans and borders and come to Japan. The fluid nature of these legends, as they begin to take form through people's faith and through supernatural means, and the fact that these open spaces, like these new cities, welcomes them on in to become new gods, they become these crazy amalgamations. The girl in the Scarlet Raincoat is the physical manifestation of a burgeoning, growing new myth and legend. As such, she can become all of these different things because she's taking on all of these different elements from story to story as the story grows and becomes codified. That, though, means that while she's gaining all of these powers and strengths, she's also taking on the weaknesses of every single myth and legend. What I enjoy about this is that this right here is the vast potential of a soft magic system. In current fantasy, a lot of people will point to hard magic systems as being the best way of truly exploring the potential of any sort of magic, myth, or magical world that you are creating. And that's in part because you get to set very specific rules for what will happen. It can be calculated, it can be tracked, and it makes logical sense to the audience. However, soft magic systems should not be discounted either, because a soft magic system can do a lot of things by being given just a handful of rules and stipulations, and then showing how it can bend those rules, go beyond them. That's what presents the mystery, the horror, the possibility, because you don't know all the rules. As such, whatever it is that you then introduce within a soft magic system, a magic system without many rules or without many stated stipulations or things that can be tracked that are logical, you as a member of the audience and the characters have to live in a kind of state of fear or of awe or of mystery, because you're never exactly sure what will happen next. And it therefore shows great bravery or tenacity or greed on the part of the characters who decide to engage within the soft magic system. And you as the creator, if you decide to go this route, you leave the door open for you to do all of these incredible cool things. However, there is a backdraw to it. Because it's so vague, it's so easy to overstep those bounds and make a being too powerful, make a curse too strong, make things just too convoluted to keep up with. In this episode of Mysterious Disappearances, the creators get very close to that line by adding on all of these various elements to the girl in the Scarlet Raincoat. And it requires you as a member of the audience, and requires the characters to do their research, to know what is going on, to pay very close attention to all the context clues in order to make sense of what is happening. If you're doing that, then everything that you've just seen makes absolute sense. It is cool, it is fulfilling. You're like, I see what's going on. And you can then be awed by all of the mystery and cool magic and the horror that it represents. But if you're not paying attention, or if you as the creator don't provide enough clues to make sense of what's going on, then it's very easy to lose the plot, to lose the characters, lose sense of what's going on, for it to easily devolve into Deus Ex Machina territory, which just immediately breaks the suspension of disbelief, and ultimately then to lose your audience. If you lose your audience, then you won't be able to really tell your story much beyond that. So, as a writer, this is one of the reasons why I really enjoyed this episode. Not because it's a good, faithful adaptation of the manga, and it hit the way that it was supposed to. As a manga lover and as a manga reader, this episode is by far the strongest. It really stuck true to the story. It hit all of the emotional beats it was supposed to. It set things up for the future. It was fantastic. Chef's kiss. I loved it. But it also highlights the potential and the dangers for a soft magic system, where you have all of this freedom, you can do all of these things, but if you're not careful enough, if you're not adding just enough clues, if you're not adding enough world building and discussion within the story to help the audience make sense of it all, it's very, very easy to lose your audience. And they got right up to the line with believability and with plausibility. Some people will argue and say that what Ren did is a little bit of an asshole. That you're like, wait, what? Where on earth did that come from? But thanks to the knowledge that this curse is an amalgamation of all these other curses, it then stands to reason that, wait a second, if it is consuming all of these different abilities and gaining all these powers, that must mean that it also has taken on some of the weaknesses of those other curiosities and curses, and Ren gambles big. It could have all blown up in his face, and anyone who knows Japanese horror, you know that it's very, very, very unlikely to escape a horror story at all. Ren gambled big and managed to survive. So that is my review, my analysis, my breakdown, and the writing advice that I was able to pull from this episode. I'd love to hear what your thoughts were on this, how you have been enjoying the Mysterious Disappearances anime thus far. And before I leave, let me just say this. I was surprised at how much of the budget in this episode went to jiggle physics, because we haven't really gotten a whole lot of that in the show thus far. And in this episode, I was like, jiggle physics? I mean, it's all over the place in the manga, but we finally got to it, because Sumi Reiko is a very well-endowed girl, and we're going to come back to that later on in the story. But with all that being said, guys, if you enjoyed this video, and if you're looking for more amazing stories, then please like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and it would help us out so much if you checked out the books that we have published. Links for every single one of our books is in the description below. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.